Deep Dive with David Stendhal, where we trade without ego, no emotion, no greed, and no opinion. Before we begin tonight's video blog, please read over our trading disclaimer and remember to trade smart and accept the reality that trading futures is risky. This presentation does not provide buy-sell recommendations, and our information is strictly provided for educational purposes only. As always, trade at your own risk and analysis. Hey, David Stendhal here. Tonight is December 11th, 2017, and in tonight's deep dive, I thought I would focus in on coffee. The ETF that you'd want to focus on would be JO. That would be on the long side, but as you can see here with the short, intermediate, and long-term trends, they're all negative. And we have the technicals across all of our different watch lists, and there's a lot of them. They all come together, and they're basically telling us that the market is giving us no clue, no idea as to what's going on from a technical perspective. But last week we have a clue where we actually had a pivot low that did form in coffee, but the market actually did sell off a little bit further today. So here is a daily chart for coffee. You can see that we broke through some support here today, this long-standing support, and the fact that the systems are short themselves, we're going to see what does take place. The elastic level indicator, this top boundary right up here, it's telling us that the market is already oversold. It's not extremely oversold, it's just oversold. If we look at our value chart indicator, you can see that they've turned yellow, and they too are telling us the fact that they're yellow, that it's in oversold territory. I think shortly here we're going to see some red bars that are going to start to appear here in coffee, and that will probably be the telltale sign that it's time to liquidate the short positions. Let's take a look at the website and just gather a little more information here. I mentioned that the long-term trend, one of the trends, is still negative. You can see here from this particular chart, this goes back about 3 years or so. You can see that coffee is a very volatile market, which is actually good because it's one of the better markets we trade, but it is certainly on the low side right now. If we look at the tendencies, and this just over the last 3 years, we have a bull condition for the depth gauge, and we have a bear, and what it does, it ranks the markets, and you can see that over the last 3 years, the wheats, natural gas, and corn are the only markets that are above that of coffee with their negative trend. All three, or excuse me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 markets that I just mentioned, they're all negative, they're all active on the bear side, but coffee does spend a fair amount of its time, at least over the last 3 years, in a bearish trend. But eventually that's going to come to an end here. And I think from a seasonal perspective, you'll get an idea as to what I'm looking at here. First thing is, here's the triangle. This represents where we are basically today. And you can see that there's typically a little bit of a consolidation that occurs, as well as an upward bias. So the 5 years are showing a little bit of a consolidation, and the 10 years are showing a base and a little bit of a surge that we might start to expect here. And these are just the seasonal charts giving you an idea as to what typically happens. But because coffee in this case has come to a point where it's oversold, it's on the cusp of going into extreme oversold territory, I think for the most part that the conditions are ripe for the to really pay close attention to the short positions, and that it's probably going to come close to wanting to liquidate some of those positions here fairly soon. So here's a kind of a little snapshot as to what's going on with our systems here. You can see that we have a number of short positions. We got a 60-minute, we've got a daily bar, we got a weekly bar, back into the intraday, a 90-minute bar. Oh, excuse me, this is a 120-minute bar here, and this is a 45-minute bar. So of all these systems, we have a nice healthy profit that's underway, and it was obviously helped with today's sell-off, but I do believe that these systems, at least the short-term systems, are going to probably do a little bit of an about face. They may not necessarily go long, but hopefully they'll start to liquidate the position, assuming, big assumption, that this sell-off that we're seeing here is not the beginning of a new trend to the downside. I think for the most part, whenever we start to see the yellow, it's always an early warning signal to really watch over your short positions. You wait for the systems to do what they have to do, but you're at least knowing that you have to be focused on those markets, because the market is probably going to do a little bit of an about face. So that being said, watch over your short positions in coffee, and in the coming today being Monday, over the course of this week, we're going to start to introduce a few more indicators into the mixture. Those things that would help to indicate what kind of a phase we're in and how we can add to positions. If you're already long the position, how can you enter into more positions? If you're short like we are right now, is there an early warning signal that can help to trigger and have you start to take some profits? Those are the types of things that we're working on. So we've turning them into what we'll term as show me's. These are things that will pop up on the screen itself, and you'll be able to get a feel for what's taking place with those particular indicators. And we'll also are going to have a secondary page here that's going to be completely devoted to patterns related to what's going on with the market. So a lot of these things right now that we have listed on the deep dive are all indicator based. Some of these other ones are going to be more pattern based. And so what's being worked on right now is to extract from our systems a lot of our code that we've been using for years that are incorporated into our systems, and we're turning them into TradeStation terminology into show me's, and those show me's will put me in a position where I can point out things on a more regular basis. So good things are happening, especially in coffee on our side with the short position. Do watch over that market because things are close to changing. I wouldn't say that they're here right now, but that market in particular, coffee, is one that can turn on a dime. Hence the reason I'm telling you to watch over those types of positions right now. So we'll take a look at some more markets this week, and we'll start to introduce some webinars that we're going to be doing, and we'll start to introduce, as the information becomes available to me from my programmers, some more information that we're going to have specifically on the deep dive that will relate specifically to patterns. So good things are happening, and we'll take a look at another market tomorrow. Thanks very much.